Chapter 10. Blizzy President, excuse me, President Lucas. We would love to have a word with you. Lucas heard the lady who stood in front of him with a microphone. He could see the videographer standing behind her. He wasn't surprised. It was a few hours after he had won the election, and honestly, he was expecting more of this. Even though his security officials tried to control the press, this lady managed to get to him somehow. The president stopped her on her interview. Thank you, sir, the woman said. Considering who you were up against, what would you say brought you to victory, and how do you feel now after winning the elections? She asked. Personally, Lucas knew there was just one thing that helped him win. He still remembered how he was introduced to the idea 2 weeks before the election, and it turned out to be the best decision ever. Before this time, Lucas was nowhere close to winning. What's the stand of the electorate right now? Lucas remembered asking that day. Adjusting his tie as he twirled around in his office chair, he was talking to his chief of staff. Lucas was one of the presidential candidates. Although he had a great manifesto and big deals for the people needed to see that. His opponent, Landon, had greater support. This made him stand a greater chance against Lucas. Looks like Landon's leading. He's got more support than you do currently, even though Lucas knew who he was up against. He had hoped to get better news. He knew that his aspirations for New York City would beat Landon's at any time and any day. But what he did not seem to understand was why he wasn't heard yet. Why the people supported Dwight Landon instead of supporting him. The way of politics was to win voters by good propaganda. And that was exactly what he was going to do. Get my campaign manager in here real quick, Lucas said angrily, facing the window. Yes, sir, the CEO. Yes, responded as he exited the office immediately to send for the manager. Lucas was still standing when he heard a knock on the door, followed by the sound of the door opening. Have you seen the poll? Lucas asked without looking back, as if knowing that it was going to be none other than his campaign manager. Yes, I have, the man responded. What can we do about it? Lucas questioned, finally turning to face the man who was standing in front of him at the other end of the desk. Lucas folded his arm and kept his gaze fixed on the man, waiting for an answer. Blizzy Code, he said loudly without stuttering. When the manager noticed the confused look on Lucas's face, he continued his statement. I think we can pull through if we use Blizzy Codes. Tell me about it, Lucas said, pulling out his chair to take a seat. Just hearing the name had stimulated Lucas' interest. He was sure it was going to be worth his time, since Chris, his campaign manager, always came up with the best ideas. This technology maximizes the 5G bandwidth to give you all you want, Chris said, as he pulled out one of the seats in front of the desk to sit. Okay, so here's how it works, he said, bringing out a pen and a notepad from the inner pocket of his jacket and placed it on the table. Lucas leaned forward to pay close attention. We get a code, put our message online in a clear way, Chris started to explain as he scribbled things down onto the notepad. With the rapid message deployment system, our message is bound to reach a larger audience in no time. Lucas kept nodding his head as he listened to his campaign manager. Chris continued, what makes our campaign different is that our Blizzy Code will help provide a two-way communication system. With this, we can get feedback from our audience. That is, we can learn the things the people would love us to work on, to do or not to do. We can hear the people's voices, and I think that's all the people want, to be heard. Yes, Lucas said in agreement as he relaxed into his chair while Chris kept talking. Now everyone who scans our code is most likely to vote for us during the elections. So if we can reach a larger audience, we can definitely gain more votes, and we can win this election. Very impressive, don't you think, sir? The manager asked with a grin when he was done. Indeed, Chris. This is brilliant, Lucas commented. Indeed, a Blizzy Code is all I need to win, he said, feeling a bit relieved. But there was one more thing which bothered him. So how about my opponent? Don't you think he might be up to the same thing? Lucas asked. I'm sure he must have heard of it, but he hasn't adopted its full philosophy. The polls are evident he isn't using this. He's doing it the traditional way instead. That's why we need to do this, sir. And now Chris answered. All right, do what you can. Whatever it takes. Get me a Blizzy Code immediately and get my message out on it. Let's see how this goes. That was all it took for him to win. Now he stood there confident that he had made the best decision. Lucas did not hesitate to give the best answer. It feels like such a great honor to serve. And for how I won, I believe my message was clear and was delivered while using the right means. I am certain I will give the people that which they need. Within my first 100 days in office, I would love to see business owners adopt the Blizzy Code push and pull system. I believe my government has introduced the Blizzy Code system to governance already. The Blizzy Code will now help the government to effectively communicate with the people, he smiled to say, before walking off with his team.